The angry video game nerd needs no introduction. Alright, you've heard of him. He's the most influential video game YouTuber of all time. He's a pioneer of the space who has inspired generations of YouTubers to come. And the best thing about him is just how well he's aged compared to his contemporaries. He still releases new episodes every 2 months or so, each one eventually garnering at least 1 million views. The fact that he's still as relevant as he is today is a rare blessing that I'm not willing to let go of. Alright, I am a huge fan of classic AVGN, as well as a diehard defender of modern AVGN. And I'm saying all this because there is no defending this. This is his 214th episode, the one on My Horse Prince, whatever that is. It came out in April of this year, and it is by far his worst one. It goes far beyond mediocre or a disappointment or a pale imitation of Golden Age AVGN or whatever, and ends up being the only episode I know of that's just straight up garbage. I guess it's my fault for not seeing this coming. I mean, this thumbnail. Like, why does bro look like that? What is this lighting? What is that expression on his face? And what's that he's holding? Is that a phone? Is this a mobile game? Are we seriously at the point where mobile games are retro now? Even ones from 2016? Whatever. Even though I hoped I'd never see the day where the nerd discovers smartphones, I was ultimately curious as to how he would take to them. After all, the mobile game market is an absolute dumpster fire with plenty to get angry about, and surely the angry video game nerd would lose his mind over it, right? The episode starts with ExpressVPN. The episode starts with, oh my god, the lighting is actually that bad. Okay, alright. Yeah. The episode starts with the nerd going on about his old cellular telephone being outdated, and how he got a new smartphone, and how he guesses it's a phone because camera, texting, touching, mobile games, whatever. He made an attempt at a joke about touching Dick Tracy and Seaman, but it kinda just came off as flaccid. In fact, the writing in general just feels awkward and stinted. Less like a nerd episode and more like a fan-made parody of a modern nerd episode.
So if I could pick only one to review, well, the choice is quite simple. Of course, go with the horse.
Like, this doesn't sound like the nerd. He would never say something like this. The whole episode can be summed up as the nerd not knowing how to smartphone, nor what to make of this admittedly bonkers game.
Girl shows up at a ranch looking for some good-looking guys. She heard that princes ride horses, and then weird Mario dude shows up. What the shit?
What the is he recording with his phone? Are you So if the bad writing and lighting aren't enough to clue you in that this episode is literally phoned in, then how about the fact that the majority of it is conducted in portrait mode, including the parts where the nerd recorded himself on his phone. Except the video itself is still in landscape, so trying to watch it on an actual phone ends up being frustrating. I guess I can appreciate the attempt at experimentation, but this whole vertical video thing mostly just feels gimmicky and unnecessary, and is executed so sloppily it gives off real how do you do fellow kids kind of energy. Just the way this whole episode is edited gives me a headache. There's this sort of disconnect between the gameplay and the camera footage that prevents the episode from properly flowing together. And it doesn't help that it switches between the two way too often, when it's not showing both of them at the same time. It feels like the episode is rushing through the game as quickly as possible while haphazardly throwing in these half-baked skits about phones and shit that has nothing to do with the game, and just start and stop whenever without any concept of pacing. The whole thing reeks of padding and misdirection.
Oh, I gotta charge.
I mean, yeah, using the camera that much is gonna drain the battery. What do you expect? Like, you can just tell the episode is desperate to create any form of stakes to justify its existence, however artificial it may be. It's the reason why the nerd left the charger for his supposedly brand new iPhone unplugged and at the bottom of the cable drawer. Not to mention the very obviously photoshopped battery percentages. It's so contrived. The nerd does touch upon some of the flaws that plague mobile gaming, like ads and wait timers and microtransactions kinda, but it's all very surface level and never goes deeper than a few sentences of mild annoyance. In fact, it takes the nerd no time at all to give into the microtransactions. Like, bruh, you were the chosen one. I was hoping the nerd would at least try to dig his heels in a little bit, actually try to focus on how these games purposely grind to a halt to manipulate you into spending money. But no, he wastes no time in buying golden carrots so he could rush through the game, because having actual things for the angry video game nerd to get angry about is far less important than having the nerd pause the review to text Bugs Bunny. Like, no one uses emojis like that anymore outside of Twitter. Speaking of, would you believe that the episode's announcement tweet states that this episode is along the same lines as Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, Big Rigs, and Hong Kong 97? Those are some of the best AVGN episodes of all time. What do you mean? I mean, he's obviously talking about the games themselves being similar in ridiculousness, but it's just the mere mention of these greats in the same breath, like the Hong Kong 97 episode. Hong Kong 97 is a practically unreleased Super Famicom game from '95 that, much like The Horse Prince, has the wildest story imaginable paired with the lamest gameplay imaginable. Yet the way the nerd pulled so much substance from it is something to be admired.
Why is the background Coca-Cola?
No gimmicks, no weird camera tricks, minimal editing, just pure gold. Yeah, it's a shorter episode, but it wastes no time in picking apart every detail of the game. It even makes time for a wild conspiracy at the end about the year 1997 and the cycle of life.
And the thing that keeps life going, reproduction and food, which becomes shit. The game is fucking shit there.
The Horse Prince episode wishes it could end like that. Instead, it ends with quite possibly the worst AVGN skit ever made. It's so bad it's not even funny anymore. Okay, bits of it are kind of funny, but still, it's a sight to behold.
Ha! Oh,
Hey, nerd.
oh God!
Whoa! Alright, I need to give some context for this next part. So, there's this part late in the game where the girl and the horse prince get into a petty argument, and the girl runs off in the middle of a snowstorm and finds some unoccupied log cabin to stay at alone. The girl decided her best bet of survival wasn't to call for help or anything, but rather to burn her phone.
Can you imagine the toxic fumes? And how much warmth would that even give off?
Like, the nerd himself recognized how stupid of an idea that was.
Dumbass.
So, why the nerd decided the best way to get rid of this apparition was to burn his phone is just completely beyond me. Like, you know that's a bad idea. Why waste all that money? Just uninstall the game.
Dumbass.
But whatever, it works somehow. The Prince PNG fades out and the nerd proclaims blah blah reject modernity and whips out this 1940s doodad, and that's how the episode ends. In 20 minutes flat. So, that whole thing about AVGN aging well, yeah, I take it back. I've been starting work on this massive AVGN retrospective with the goal of seeing if he's actually fallen off or not. Because I've stumbled upon several video essays that have relegated the series to the fate of The Simpsons, where, the first several seasons were regarded as the golden age until Screenwave Media scooped it up, and from there it stopped being as good. Most modern AVGN episodes are often seen as mediocre, if not disappointing. It seemed like this series started to focus more on quantity rather than quality, with very few Golden Age caliber episodes throughout. But they were still enjoyable, alright? Most, in my opinion, being a 6, maybe even a 7 out of 10. Even the ones many consider to be particularly depressing were at least just fine. If anything, ever since the controversial decision to split episode 200 into 3 parts, it seems like the series started to shift focus back to quality. Episodes now take 2 months to come out, and are generally much more substantial than before. Yeah, it still doesn't feel like the golden ages, but at least it feels like its own thing. And the extra time and effort is very much noticeable in how much more consistently good it's been. So, what happened here? Why the sudden drop-off in quality? Did this really take 2 whole months to make? Was it really written and directed by James Wolfe himself? I mean, take a look at the episode before, the one of the Goonies games. Same time frame, written and directed by Wolfe, infinitely better nerd episode. With better editing, better jokes, actual commentary, longer runtime, recurring characters, and actual anger. It's a night and day difference, even if it's still cloudy. And I'm not the only one who sees it that way. If you were to check out the IMDb page for AVGN, yes, that exists and I have my issues with it, believe me, you'll see that this Horse Prince episode is by far the lowest rated episode in series history, even lower than episode 200, and this comes after a string of semi-well regarded ones. Not to mention the comment sections on YouTube. The Goonies episode has people showing nothing but respect for the man reaching his 20th anniversary, while everyone in the Horse Prince episode is just confused if not concerned. And I don't blame him. It's such a baffling episode, one I still have a tough time believing actually exists. One that puts the entire future of the series into question. It's like, you know that one part in The Christmas Carol Part 2 where the nerd put on a beard and pretended to be an old version of himself reviewing the Wii by just dancing and acting like a jackass while playing shovelware before dying? That's what this episode feels like, except he doesn't die and he doesn't have a beard. James just seems tired of playing this character, like butter scraped over too much bread. And while you could get that impression from much of the Screenwave era, if not before, never before has it been this obvious. It needs one to ponder whether or not the series should just end before it becomes the proverbial. Thankfully, the 20th anniversary episode that came out a few weeks later in the middle of me writing this turned out to be alright. It's a sort of auto-retrospective of the series and Castlevania and how they relate that I find to be pretty insightful and interesting for what it is. So it seems like this nightmare episode is just an anomaly, and I hope it stays that way. Alright, I'm still a fan of AVGN and I do ultimately wish the best for James Wolfe. Just no more mobile games, please.